Good morning, everyone. I had to look at the time. Everyone. My name is Lynette Davis with LynetteDavis.com, and I am here for a special blog, which I'm doing actually as a vlog for Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Now, I don't know if you have virtually met Dr. Kleck, but she is my resident expert. And I've asked her to join me for this month as we celebrate Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, which is July. So, Dr. Kleck, welcome again.
Always my pleasure. It's always fun. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, as I just said, July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and I hope I'm saying it right because it's a long one.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Tell us about Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, because I know some people are like, okay, I know May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but I had no idea about this July one. So can you tell us about this one and what brought it about?
Okay. I know lots of people aren't as familiar with the Minority Mental Health Awareness as they are with May, which is national. So Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, yeah, it's a pretty long title, is honored the whole month of July. And unfortunately, we're down to the last 5 days. So we're going to make the best of it. But, for those of us like you and me as advocates for mental health, this is our daily kind of existence. But Minority Mental Health Month is really in celebration and awareness campaign for people who are marginalized, underprivileged, people who may not have access to resources, people of color, people in groups that are typically seen as minorities. It's a time really for the mental health campaign to focus on their needs. And so we know that means reducing and eliminating the stigma of people of color and communities of color and differences, seeking mental health, access to resources, getting really good quality care, and also just really making people aware that it's okay to be in need of mental health services, even though it's been taboo in communities of color. So it's just that month to highlight all of the mental health issues for folks of color and communities that have been marginalized, and disenfranchised.
Awesome to know. Now, I have a quick question to clarify something, because half the time I think when people say minority, the first thing I think is people of color. But I have some friends who are, for instance, physically disabled. I used to, a long time ago, I used to work at Bancroft, where I worked with people who had, a lot of mental illness. And I cannot remember the term that we used then.
Okay.
Would they be considered minorities?
They are considered minorities, but I think because of the original pioneer, who herself was Bebe Moore Campbell, she really was looking at communities of color and marginalized communities in terms of ethnicity. I don't think she looked at the extenuating groups that we can now look at, because terms keep changing. You're right. Now we bring in a lot of different kinds of people who are minorities, but when she was doing it, it really was around ethnicity, race, and communities of color.
Okay. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm looking at my trusty notebook here. Some kind of colorful notebook.
Very pretty.
And I'll probably go into that later.
Okay.
So why, kind of what you were going on, why do you think it was important that Ms. Campbell created a Minority Mental Health Awareness Month when we do have a larger one in May?
Yeah, because the one in May typically didn't look at folks of color. And so the backstory, and I've done my research on this so that I know, and I've been talking about it for a couple of years. The backstory is that she herself, her family had and has a history of mental illness. So Bebe Moore Campbell is no longer with us. She died and she lost the battle to cancer. I think it was breast cancer, if I'm not correct, in 2006. But as I read her story, her mother was diagnosed with bipolar illness. And so she grew up with a mentally ill parent. Subsequently, in her work and her grassroots effort in California, people began to look at her advocacy, and she kind of petitioned the government then, I think it was in DC, to have some kind of awareness. And then it grew into this campaign and got national recognition. And for those who don't know, so we know in the media tabloids, Maya Campbell recently, that's her daughter. And so, when I think about intergenerational kinds of issues and things that happen between and in families with mental illness, here this girl's grandmother had bipolar, and now we know she is diagnosed with bipolar. Again, I don't know. I never heard anything about BB Moore Campbell herself, but her campaign and her efforts for people of color was really inspired by her own family history.
And that, that seems to be the case with a lot of advocates. I started becoming an advocate. I became a true advocate, I should say, because I have a history of working in the field, but I had never considered myself an advocate at that time. I didn't become later till it started hitting more close to home. And here's the kicker. I wasn't even considering my own issues at that time. So, which I found a lot of people in the social work field do. They're ready to save everybody else except for themselves.
That's right.
So, speaking of advocacy, someone who is inspired like BB, wants to get involved with advocating for mental health awareness and contributing to this movement to get rid of, hashtag no stigma. What would you suggest to be a starting point for something like that? Because everybody, sometimes go, I want to help, but I can't do something like that. I don't know how to create a whole month.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be such a large scale thing.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And actually, where I think the easiest place to start is social media. And so what you do is go to places like the National Alliance of Mentally Ill. NAMI has information, or you can put in July is Minority Mental Health Month, and it will take you to a whole page of social media graphics, blogs, and things like that you can copy and paste onto your page. So you can share it even at the most quickest and simplest level is on your social media platforms, because then your followers can see it and begin to recognize, oh, okay, so this is an important campaign, so let me share that. Other ways is always go local first. What does your local communities need? Because I think most people look at these grand things like, oh, I want to go to the mayor and see if we can do a day or something. And sometimes that's not easy to do, and you have to plan like a year in advance for that. So go literally grassroots. What is your community needs? Could you do like a mental health day in the park, or could you get with some therapists or some other advocates and y'all come together as a group and come up with something to do in terms of recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month? But I think that don't go big unless you have the resources to go big. And mostly I want to say collaborate with folks, because all communities have groups that are willing to do some kind of work around advocacy. And
you know what? I love what you said about collaboration, because sometimes we're like ready to just go off and do our own thing, and we can make a more impact. There we go. And which is why I have you on here.
Yes.
We have, I've been very lucky to collaborate with Dr. Clack on several projects, and I can't see us not collaborating more.
Right.
So.
Yep. It's very easy to do. People share passions. It's not that hard. Now, there are people we may want to collaborate with that may be a bit inaccessible to us. It might require someone to help us make connections, but there are folks right here that we're in touch with every day that we can collaborate with. We just have to reach out and let people know what we want to do. Exactly.
So I want to backpedal, because I was talking about the social work field a little bit, and how. And I'm not just, going to pick on social workers or anything.
Okay.
But what I mean is people who are like, okay, I want to be an advocate and all these other things, but sometimes ignoring their own mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this can apply to professionals who
Yes.
are in the field, or people
Mm-hmm.
who are just, happen to see an advocacy campaign, feeling like, okay, people are talking about this. Maybe it's time for me to finally seek some help for myself.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a good first step for somebody who's finally ready to work on themselves and their mental health?
Wow. Well, I know that the first step is acknowledging that I need help. And so when they have gotten to that place, which can take some of us a really long time, we want to encourage people. So maybe the first step is for them to reach out and ask someone who they trust. Is there someone that they then trust? Do they have a recommendation of someone that they can talk to? You know that you can Google just about everything. But sometimes we read things and we read into things and we read too much of something and we start to self-diagnose. So we want people to be in touch with people. So it's okay to do some research and say, well, I'm feeling this way, and look up symptoms. But we want to reach out to people who we trust to give us a really good opinion, a really good assessment about what we're going through. And I know lots of times folks say, I've been wanting to come. When they do get themselves to the office, it's like, wow, I've been really wanting to come for a while, but I've been ashamed, I'm embarrassed, all those stigma kind of things that prevent us. And when you're a helper, you are even more reluctant, because the belief is you shouldn't need that. You're in the field, you went to school for this, you're an expert in this, as if there's no human side to the helper. We take in a lot of other people's stuff for years. We're helping people deal with grief and trauma, and then our stuff gets triggered. So where do we go? We have to be careful about not harming our patients because we haven't taken care of our own stuff. So it is important for us to recognize and find a good, healthy helper to help us as helpers, to help us heal.
Mm-hmm. Good point. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be a controversial phrase, but I honestly do believe you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah, it's true. That's right. Yep. I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. And a lot of people in this field, we work until we're burned out, either because of the hours we're working, the nature of the business. So we are usually running on fumes by the end of the night. And so, or the end of the week, and we don't take vacations and we won't take time off. And we're just burning and running ourselves ragged, and our self-care is at zero. And so that in turn exacerbates our mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you know what? It's so funny because as I'm talking, I just realized I have my vision board and my little dream back of me.
Okay.
If anybody else is like, oh, what's that in back of you? Here's the funny thing. Because Dr. Clack typically, like I said, we have collaborated on things, but Dr. Clack, every once in a while, she also has like spontaneous events too. And we did a vision board party.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And at that time, I walked home with just a plain board because I love art.
Okay.
But it takes me a long time to do art myself.
Okay.
Because my background is more performing artist. I used to dance. I was a singer in the choir.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
So I'm like, ugh. So I'm one of those people who's like, you know what? Don't give up on you. It took me a couple months, but
But you did it. All right. That's cool.
I say that because sometimes when people first start out on their healing journey, they may come across a therapist who does not believe what you said. They're not taking care, they're not pouring into their own cup first. And I wish it wasn't the case, but that's why we have a minority mental health awareness.
That's right.
Because
oh goodness, wait a minute. Wait, Lynn. Who doesn't believe that? Really? Have you run across that's sad.
Yeah. I have definitely heard some stories from the different peer groups of counselors who may have come to the table with bias.
That's true. Okay.
You know, like things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to set the tone like it's going to be awesome, it's going to be great, or you know, there are people who just don't vibe with their particular counselor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That counselor may be, and it's again controversial, but you know what? It is what it is. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the truth hurts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you might have a therapist that's covered by your insurance, and it's not that it's not a good therapist. It's just they have so many people coming in based off that insurance that you might not get the same quality care.
True. Yep.
So whereas the patient right before them, they got the best of them, you know?
Yep.
So
that is true.
Yep. Don't give up on you.
Mm-hmm.
You might not find a perfect fit the first time, which is why I agree with Dr. Black to listen out for recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to not give up if the first fit doesn't work.
That's right.
So if you're invested in your mental health, keep going until you finally get your vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good example. I like that. That's true. Very good.
Awesome. So, Dr. Clack, thank you so much. I promised I would not take up much of your time because I know this is a work day for both of us.
It's all right. This is why I love doing this. I love educating people because it's so important. And I think that when folks like you and I make mental health so much more real and accessible, they're more likely to actually take it into consideration and get help. So we want people to know that, yeah, you know, it is real. We've had our struggles and we just have set really good boundaries. And that's one of the things that we help people to do as well, is that particularly helping healers heal, sometimes it's around boundaries. You're working too much. You are maybe not taking off enough time for you. Your self-care is poor. And so it reflects in your work, in the quality of your work. So you're right. It's honest and it's true and it's real and it's raw, but sometimes we have to get confronted and check ourselves too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm all like, high five. Before we go,
okay,
tell us what you have been up to, and you know how our listeners or viewers can get in touch with you. You know, after watch this thing.
Okay. Well, one thing I do want to say is thank you for sharing your completed vision board, because it tells people vision boards can be updated and added to. So I know that it's an ongoing, evolving thing for all of us. But what have I been up to? Well, you and I have been sharing monthly with our sister meetup group, and that's a gathering of women of color, and it's not necessarily just mental health. It's women of color who really, actually, I think what's turning out is that women of color who need support for self-care. So that's what it's turning out to be. And we've been meeting monthly, and that's in collaborations with Dr. Nadia Richardson out of Birmingham. So we do that monthly. I've been working on my book, and I finally got that to the book editor. So hopefully we'll meet again and we'll talk about that. And that's also about women of color and mental health. And I think the other thing is, please join me on Wednesday nights. I try to be consistent as possible for Facebook Live. This matters to our mental health conversation. I pick a different hot topic every week, and we talk about different things. And so people can always go to my Facebook page, Angela Clack, and go back to some old videos, but join me every Wednesday evening. And how you can reach me is always on Facebook at Angela Clack and Dr. Angela Clack. My website, www.clackassociates.com. And, or if you need to reach out to me by phone, you want to talk about whether or not I'm for you, or you need some support, 856-875-5335. I'm in South Jersey.
Awesome. Again, Dr. Clack, thank you so much for coming
on
and sharing your awesome wisdom.
Absolutely.
I'll be sure to link, so that they can get to the page if they want to join in on the conversations on Wednesday. And I've tuned into several of them, and
great,
really awesome.
Yay!
Very resourceful.
Awesome.
And of course, yes, please come out to our monthly sister support meetup, which happens, I believe, every third Thursday?
Every third Thursday, except for August, which I'm hoping, I don't know if you saw my recent post, I'm trying to get to this self-care conference festival. It's a festival in Brooklyn, New York. So that would replace this August, and we'll start back up in September.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'll see you guys there in September. And if you have any questions, I'll put Dr. Clack's contact information there. And obviously my contact's already on my website.
Right.
So everyone, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Until the next time, peace.
Bye. Have a great day.